Are you ready to get into this one? Once again, I get to talk about World War II, which we know is my favorite topic.
Hey all, welcome back to Sillage and Sorcery. I thought about it and I got it correct.
I'm so proud.
Thank you. The podcast where two witches talk about all things perfumery, witchcraft, all of that other good stuff. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is B. Sampson of Venus Invictus, and I'm joined today by my co-host.
Melissa Sifjardóttir of Sif Sniffs.
And today we are diving into a very fun and interesting ingredient. Vetiver, your least favorite ingredient ever.
Yeah, it smells like pickles to me. And I think it's just me, and I just think it's my nose. It smells like pickles.
I wonder if it's similar to the cilantro gene that some people have, where it's like they can only taste soap. I actually really like vetiver, and we'll talk about the many different facets of it. Vetiver, it's not just a grass. It's a fragrance that tells the story of ancient rituals, global trade, and the very soil it grows in. We're going to explore a little bit of its spiritual roots, how we discovered its incredible scent, and the art of extracting its essence, and a little bit of what the chemistry behind it and why it makes it so complex. So let's start off with the history and folklore. So what exactly is vetiver? Well, the botanical name for it is Chrysopogon Caesanioides. The very long and complex, like the Latin name for it, the nomenclature is.
Crazy part of your job. At least I just
Yeah.
pronounced dead guys' names incorrectly.
It's known by many names, though. In India, it's called kus or couscous, and that's Khus, not like couscous, the like grain that we eat. It's considered the oil of tranquility. Its history is as deep and widespread as its root system. Let's dive into vetiver and unearth some of the folklore and history behind it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "I am the fragrance of the soil." For many, this is seen as a divine nod to vetiver, a plant that literally drinks in the aromatic molecules from the earth, becoming a living embodiment of its home. It's also known as a living air conditioner. Long before electric cooling, people in India and other tropical regions wove vetiver roots into curtains, screens, and mats. And when hot winds blew, they would sprinkle water on vetiver, and the evaporation would release a cooling, fresh, woody vapor that scented and refreshed the air. It's like nature's own climate control, if you will.
That's freaking cool.
It's so cool. I've got a little traveler's tale. Vetiver's journey around the world is a story of sharing. It traveled from its native India along global trade routes, likely carried by merchants and colonists, unfortunately. It ended up in places like Haiti, where it's a huge industry today, Indonesia, and even New Orleans, where since 1843, a vetiver perfume called Couscous, Kus, has been continuously produced, a vestige of French colonial culture. For generations, New Orleans have tucked little dried bundles of vetiver root into their linen closets, not just for its lovely scent, but because it also acts as a natural insect repellent.
Even better. It's multifaceted.
Multifaceted. Let's talk a little bit about how it's extracted. How do we get it into a bottle? Well, vetiver is a tall, tufted grass that can grow up to nearly 10 feet tall. But the precious part of vetiver is underground. It's a massive network of tiny rootlets that can grow 10 to 13 feet deep. These roots are harvested when the plant is about 2 years old. They're dug up, washed, and then they're ready for distillation. The quality of the scent and the oil depend heavily on how it's extracted and where it grows. So there is this traditional like steam distillation method. This is a traditional method where steam is passed through the roots, vaporizing the essential oil, which is then condensed back into liquid and separated. This process can be slow, taking anywhere from a grueling 20 to 72 hours to complete, because most of the valuable oil molecules have a high boiling point. There's modern and green methods. Like you'll find today different vetivers extracted using high pressure steam for faster extraction, though often less nuanced. There's also innovative eco-friendly methods like CO2 extraction, which can yield a very pure green smelling. And there's also a green technique that modifies ethanol with CO2 to enhance its dissolving power. The yield, though, is minuscule. It takes about 1,000 kilograms, which is over a ton, of dried roots to just produce 10 to 15 kilograms of essential oil. This makes every drop incredibly precious. I love vetiver. I have a few different types of vetiver in my perfumer's organ. I have vetiver Absolute from Haiti, and then I also have a bourbon vetiver Absolute, which is a little bit smokier and kind of smells boozy, which is fantastic. I love it so much. And then I also use a double distilled vetiver, which is a very light, earthy aroma. What vetivers do you have that you work with or have
Mm,
you worked with?
I don't like working with it. So mine is just vetiver CO2. I should probably expand now that you're saying bourbon vetiver now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, now you know that the CO2 extraction is probably why it smells a little bit more green and could give you that like pickly
pickle.
type
Yeah,
of aroma.
exactly. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, that I'm biased, and it's probably just what I have on my organ that is giving it pickle.
Let's talk a little bit about why vetiver is a fragrance superstar. So, why do perfumers like us absolutely adore vetiver? Well, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah,
Um,
no, no.
It all comes down to its incredible versatility and power. It's one of the ultimate bass notes. It's a classic bass note. Its molecules are heavy and evaporate slowly, which means it provides incredible longevity to a fragrance. The ghost of a vetiver note can linger on skin and fabric for days on end. It has incredible fixative power. It acts as a natural fixative, meaning it binds with other scent molecules in a composition, slowing their evaporation and helping the entire fragrance stay blended and coherent over time. It's also an olfactory chameleon. The scent profile of vetiver oil is incredibly complex. Depending on its origin and distillation, it can smell earthy and woody and rooty, which is the classic profile. It can smell smoky and leathery, like Haitian or Javanese vetiver. It can smell sweet, balsamic, and slightly fruity, or it can smell fresh, citrusy, and sparkling with grapefruit-like nuances. This is why it's a key ingredient in everything from fresh masculine scents like Guerlain's Vetiver to iconic feminine masterpieces like Chanel Number 5. Let's talk a little bit why vetiver's smell is so complex. I'm not going to list them all, but scientific analysis shows that vetiver essential oil is one of the most biochemically complex materials, containing over 150 different constituents. The key players that create its signature odor are vast and numerous. There is one main ingredient, and I can try to pronounce it, but I'll probably just end up butchering it because it's kind of scientific
Our
sounding.
entire pod.
So there is one that's like a key contributor to the transparent, woody, ambery note of vetiver and is more potent than previously thought throughout history. It's 2-EPI-ZIZA-6 parentheses 13-EN-3-1.
So that's like a straight up Elon Musk child name.
Exactly.
Like I could get like ethyl dimethyl whatever, right?
Right.
But this is no. This is numbers and letters.
Numbers and letters. It's all numbers and letters. But the thing that's interesting about it is that the exact combination and concentration of the molecules vary based on different things like the soil, the climate, the location, the distillation method, which is why vetiver from Haiti will smell different from vetiver from Java or Reunion. The soil is literally what writes the scent's recipe because what we're harvesting is the roots. And then before I wrap up on my end, I just want to give a little fun fact about vetiver. It's an environmental superhero. Beyond perfume, vetiver is a miracle plant for the environment. Its massive root system is globally used in some places for erosion control. It will stabilize slopes and cleans polluted soil. It's a living nail that technically holds the earth together. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, that's freaking cool.
Have you ever seen vetiver root?
No.
It's so beautiful and it smells so good. You can get vetiver root bundles at like a lot of metaphysical stores, but more specifically, if you find anyone that sells like products specifically from Haiti, you'll usually find like castor bean, like castor oil, different types of castor oils, but also vetiver. Vetiver root is a huge trade in Haiti and it's great. You can use it. I had one at one point that I would hang in my shower because when the steam would interact with it, it would kind of like how I mentioned earlier, how it was woven into like carpets and rugs and mats and stuff. If you take a bundle of dried vetiver and hang it in your shower, once the steam kind of activates the scent, it'll make your whole bathroom smell very like earthy and calm. It's very nice.
I've done it with eucalyptus.
But you can also burn it as you would any other bundle as well, and it has a very nice, pleasant aroma when it's lit on fire.
It makes sense based off of what you said. Vetiver, and the reason it has always come up for me, and the only reason why I use it, is because Odin very specifically said, I want vetiver. So if you make a scent, it has to have vetiver in it. And now that you've kind of done this deep dive on vetiver, it makes sense of why Odin would want it. There's so much of that like interconnected, communicative, connected with the earth essence that is also in Odin. So checks out.
It also kind of like, I could see that. It also, because it's like, kind of, it's like a very light brown. Sometimes it's a little like orange looking, but it's usually like a light brown. Sometimes you'll see it as like a very pale, like yellow root. But it's like a very fibrous, elongated root system that's just kind of like all together. Okay, thank you.
All right. So, question for you. What do Scott Eastwood, Paul Walker, Snoop Dogg, and the guy who played Sawyer in Lost all have in common?
I have no clue. They all wear a vetiver fragrance?
They've all been either in advertising or, in Snoop Dogg's case, mentioned in a song, Davidoff Cool Water.
Smell this.
Wait, but you were like alive in the 90s and you
I
haven't smelled.
was. Maybe I have. Maybe I just didn't realize. I'm sure that I have. If it's anywhere as prolific as like Aqua di Gio was, then I've smelled it.
We're going to get into how iconic and how historically iconic Davidoff Cool Water is. What I will say for the purists on the pod, not that we have any, but in case we did have a purist, vetiver is in cool water for women. We're going to primarily be talking about cool water for men. And that is because we always do women's fragrances. And it's close enough. So I was like, we're doing the guys.
Love that.
So do we know Davidoff? Have you heard of Davidoff outside of just in fragrance? Well, you've never really heard of Davidoff Cool Water. So have you heard of Davidoff, the brand?
No.
Okay. So we're going to first start off with that. You know, Davidoff was born in 1906 in what is now Ukraine. But just like with Max Factor in our last episode, it was then part of Russia and like Russian Empire. The Davidoffs, just like Max Factor again, were Jewish. And his father worked in the tobacco industry, sourcing cigars and running his own shop in Kiev. When Zeno was 5, the family moved from Kiev to Geneva, Switzerland. It's unclear why they moved exactly, but there was rising anti-Semitism. They're Jewish. It's the Russian Empire. So they more than likely got out of Dodge. When Zeno turned 18, he began doing the sourcing for the tobacco shop, which led him to travel all over the world, particularly in Central and South America. So he was exploring the world. Not all over, but because of the temperatures he experienced in Central and South America, he believed that the humidity and the temperature were impacting the quality of the cigars that he was sourcing. And since they couldn't take the Swiss temperatures, particularly in the winter, he invented the humidor.
The humidor?
The humidor was invented by Zeno Davidoff.
Wow. Well, he's not wrong about humidity affecting the product.
Yes. I don't know how much of an impact it makes on cigars. I'm not a cigar smoker. I'm not a tobacco person.
I think that's quite literally why they're kept in cigar boxes. Like they're kept in a wooden box to help prevent the humidity, because the humidity will first go towards the box instead of the actual thing that's inside of it.
Yeah. So the humidor was created by this guy.
Very cool.
In the 90s, he marries. It's unknown how he met his wife, or at least I couldn't find it in my research. But he does receive a dowry from the marriage, which he uses to open up his own shop. One source said that he bought his father's shop, and then another one said that he bought a shop that he was working for. So I don't know if he like left his father's shop and started working for someone else, but either way, he gets his own shop in the 1930s. Then what really had Zeno rise to prominence is World War II. So, do you want to make a guess what side of the war that Zeno was on?
He fully wasn't with the Nazis. At least I wouldn't assume.
He was on the side of capitalism. And
Right.
he's Swiss, so they're neutral. So he didn't care. what side you were on, as long as you were paying for cigars.
Big yikes.
Big
Big
yikes.
yikes energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
big yikes.
a capitalist is a capitalist. They have no backbone.
Correct. So he was on the side of capitalism.
Makes sense. Okay.
Because of Switzerland's neutrality, the breakdowns of like the supply chain is not the same. And he sources everything himself, right? He goes to South America, he goes to Central America to buy these cigars. So he is often one of the only sources of cigars, particularly high end cigars, for both sides throughout World War II. And that's where Zeno really distinguishes himself and makes a fuck ton of money.
Wow.
Capitalists are going to keep on capitalizing, doing the capital.
Yeah.
Because the majority of his customers are rich Europeans, he wants to appeal to that base. So he launches his own line of cigars, which he names Chateau in 1946. And this is where things start to get interesting. So in 1960, the United States imposed a trade embargo on Cuba. In the US, we don't like socialism, but we prefer fascism, apparently. And Castro is on the outs.
The United States just loves shitting on anyone who's trying socialism, and the embargo's still happening today.
Yep, the embargo is still happening today. Zeno has been going to Cuba and enters into a trade agreement with Fidel Castro so that Davidoff will carry Cuban cigars from the Cuban state tobacco monopoly.
Wow.
So that's how Cuban cigars were getting out of Cuba and getting back into the US, was with this intermediary of Davidoff.
Fascinating.
And at this point, this is a good time to take a pause and just say, so Davidoff is a cigar company.
Right. Right. How does he
Okay.
get into perfume?
So right now, we're just taking a pause. I have said nothing about fragrance. I've only talked about cigars. In 1968, they finally have their own Davidoff labeled cigars. Before it was like Chateau cigars that were made by Davidoff and it was their own label. In 1970, it's acquired by another European tobacco company called Max Oettinger Company, and that remains the brand's majority owner today. They also released cigarillos in 1971 and pipe tobacco in 1975, which seems like the wrong time to be getting into pipe tobacco, but here we are. In 1980, the brand decided to spin out the Zeno Davidoff Group from Davidoff. The Zeno Davidoff Group is responsible for licensing the brand's name and likeness to use on other goods, particularly luxury items such as watches, pens, and that includes fragrance.
Well, well, well.
And the fragrance they licensed to, surprise, surprise, friend of the pod, Cody. There is some speculation that at the time, the spinoff was to improve the brand's image. In 1964, the U.S. Surgeon General releases a report that tobacco is not great. Maybe we shouldn't be smoking while we're pregnant or doing most life tasks. It is not beneficial for asthma. And all of the other claims that happened historically regarding cigarettes. So cigarettes and cigars are not really looking great in the 70s. And by putting the name on luxury goods, it can improve brand awareness and improve the image of the brand. Also, many countries after the US Surgeon General warning start limiting and restricting tobacco. And this is a way for Davidoff, the brand, to kind of expand to things that are not just tobacco. Do you think that cool water has a note of tobacco?
Think so. Does it not?
It says that it does have a note of tobacco, but every single review, every single discussion about it doesn't mention it.
Okay. I kind of have a theory. I kind of feel like they say it has a note of tobacco because they're assuming that people are going to be using this fragrance to cover up the fact that they've been smoking, and that will give them the tobacco note. Just a theory, though.
But yeah, it apparently says it. And I think I saw one YouTube video that mentioned that it had a tobacco note. Everything else is like, nope, no. What the fuck are you talking about?
Wow.
So what do you think about that? So the whole brand is tobacco, and yet it comes out with this really well-known fragrance that has literally nothing to do with tobacco.
I think it sounds like a business. Whoever made the decision to get into fragrance, I think it's a good business move on their part, because if all of this information is coming out that, oh, this is actually bad for you and could cause cancer. And they have to pivot in some way to make up for the sales that they would be losing.
In my MBA program, we're talking about pivoting this week. So I love and respect that you're bringing it back to my MBA and reminding me I need to do my homework. 1988, Cody working under the Davidoff license, just like we talked about in the Prada episode. It has the name, it's on the box, it's Davidoff Cool Water, but it is manufactured, developed, sold by, branded by Cody. The license is literally, you could slap a brand name on your product and do whatever the fuck you want with it. They start launching Davidoff Cool Water. So I'm going to have you read a review.
Here we go.
I know we're 1,000% here for the lovely, particularly Reddit reviews. The Reddit reviews are just chef's kiss.
So, the review goes as follows. As it is, the opening hits with intense dewy green grass and jasmine smell, chilling minty overtones and lavender that's bright and refreshing, but not dominant and doesn't, in my opinion, give off the distinct effect of Ben's cologne. Cool water smells like having a walk along the grassy lake shore somewhere in continental Europe in the morning after a night of raining, on a pathway that's about to take a turn into a thick forest where water drops are still sliding off the leaves and falling into the moist undergrowth.
I suppose that Cool Water owes a part of this impression and its reputation to Creed's Green Irish Tweed. It's impossible to talk about Cool Water and not mention Green Irish Tweed. Have you heard of Creed Irish Tweed?
That sounds familiar, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's another iconic Ace fragrance, and both of them were made by the same perfumer who is Pierre Bourdon, and he did both Green Irish Tweed and Davidoff Cool Water. When I was looking up reviews and like history and just like the general discourse about Cool Water, there's so many YouTube videos, there's so many posts, there's so much discourse comparing Cool Water and Green Irish Tweed. Everybody thinks these are basically dupes of one another. Pierre Bourdon was behind both of them.
Wow.
The Creed one is like hundreds of dollars, and Davidoff Cool Water,
Drugstore cologne.
I mean, it's going to be behind probably a lockbox, but it's definitely a drugstore level cologne.
I just need to look at the bottle.
The women's version is a little bit more signature than the men's version. The men is just like blue and rectangular.
You know what? I do know this fragrance. My dad, growing up, when I was real young, was a smoker, and he kept this bottle in his car.
Checks out for everything we have covered so far.
Yep.
Yep.
It makes sense. Tobacco, cologne. Two things go hand in hand. I guess they knew who they were marketing to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pierre was born in France in 1946. Then in 1971, at the age of 25, he decided to become a perfumer's apprentice, and he studied under Edmund Rudnitska and Jean Carles. Edmund Rudnitska is the nose behind favorite of the pod, Dior Eau Sauvage.
Wow.
And also Giorismo. He also created scents for Elizabeth Arden, Hermes, and Chanel.
Okay, now.
So yeah, here is the only person who has Edmund as a mentor. It's only the two of them kind of that work together.
Wow.
Jean Carles is a very notable teacher of perfumers. He's founder of the Rohr Perfumery School. He also created a method called the Jean Carles method, in which students learn about classes of different scents, compare and contrast them, and then break them down into separate parts. So, for an example, since we did jasmine a few weeks ago, you will learn about, say, florals. And then you'll have this section of florals and compare it to, say, woods or other kind of categories, right? Maybe animalic, that sort of thing. Then you're exposed to jasmine specifically. And it's like, okay, this is the scent of jasmine. And then it breaks down to all of the different components that are used in perfumery. So then you'd get indole, linalool, hedione. And then that way, students can kind of trace that mental flow chart between one bigger category and then smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to the component parts.
Wow. That's a cool way of looking at it.
I also think that that's pretty cool. And it also connects to one of our first episodes where we had the wheel from Mandy Aftel, right? And it's that same flowchart kind of idea of like, all right, I'm looking for this. How do I kind of get there and find the ingredient that I'm looking for? In something sad, Jean also began to lose his sense of smell towards the end of his life. However, this did not stop him from continuing to produce fragrances based off of memory alone. One of those scents being one of my favorites, which is Dior's Miss Dior.
Miss Dior was created by a person who couldn't smell.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Is that not nuts? Some have likened Jean to be the Beethoven of perfumery, which based off of the fact that he created Miss Dior with no working nose, I think is well deserved.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
I know. That was one of the ones where I came up across it in my research. I was like, oh, this is absolutely fucking going in my notes. We're totally talking about that.
Very cool. I have to go out and smell it now.
Oh, Miss Dior?
Yeah.
You should get on that. Back to Pierre. Pierre worked as a cosmetic chemist, designing scents for personal care products. So he started off in like shaving cream, shampoo, body wash, things like that. In 1981, he created his first big fragrance, which is Yves Saint Laurent's Coros. I've never smelled this, nor have I heard of this one before this episode.
Me neither.
He then co-founded his own company called Takasago Europe. When I saw the name Takasago, I was like, I know that that's got to be fucking Japanese. Like, I went to Japan on my honeymoon. I speak very bad Japanese sometimes, and my phrases are very limited. But I had enough Japanese to get around Japan and, like, not offend Japanese people. Most of the time, they would laugh at my Japanese and then speak to me in English. But I was like, it's got to be Japanese. Like, there's no way.
I know this name.
I know this. So I went to the website. Our mission is to create new value through innovation rooted in Kaori. Kaori meaning aroma in Japanese. So the company is headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, and has a revenue of about 1.5 billion USD annually. But it says that Pierre was a co-founder, so I'm still confused about that. I think he probably just founded the Europe division and kind of collaborated with Japan at this time. But also it's the 80s, and this is kind of when Japan was looking to do more globalization. So that's kind of how I think these things are connected, but I'm not 100% sure. And I do not have any evidence to support that belief.
That's so funny that you mentioned Takasago. I had an aroma chemical from Takasago. When I was trying to make a wine note, I saw that they made a Sauvignon aroma chemical, and I got it, diluted the fuck out of it to like 5%. It made me so nauseous because it smelled like BO. I don't think that I've never smelled any aroma chemical that was like, this is too much. I don't know if I would ever be able to do anything with it. And that ingredient, I think it was called like Sauvignon 100 or something like that. Oh, trash. I had to throw it in the garbage. But I am excited to try some of their other aroma chemicals when I get the chance.
Yeah, same. And I was like, oh, we usually hear of like the big four for Minute Givaudan, the ones that we talk about on here all the time. And I was like, oh, this is like a whole new company that I hadn't heard of prior to this episode. Once Cool Water launched, it became an instant classic of the late 1980s and the early 90s. Some would even say guys were rocking Cool Water all the way up to the 2000s. It was so ubiquitous that recently an exhibit called the Experience even featured a box of Cool Water in a locker.
No.
Could we have a moment that the fact that like our elementary school experience is now like a museum?
I can't.
And like a installation exhibit.
Feel old.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh no. No.
I haven't had enough coffee for this.
But there was also this move towards blue, clean, masculine-leaning fragrances throughout the and early 2000s. CK1 came out in this time, right? You also had Tommy Boy,
I believe. Acqua di Gio.
There's also Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. There's all of these kind of like blue aquatic scents that all came out in the 90s, early 2000s that were all over kind of the more masculine leaning fragrances. And like many of these icons, it has created a number of spin-offs, the most notable being Cool Water for Women, which Pierre also made. But there is, and I looked this up, and there's over 30 different Cool Water spin-offs. We have Cool Water Caribbean Summer, Cool Water Frozen, which I thought was a great name, Cool Water Coral Reef, all right? And they all have this aquatic green nature that is featured in the original. In a complete and funny twist, they also have Hot Water.
Hot water?
Hot water, yes.
Uh-uh.
What do you think hot water smells like?
Pennies.
Pennies? Feel like, yeah, it just smells like pennies. No, it is just a surprise. Just, it's a spicy one. And it's got like paprika is one of the notes and hot water. It's just spicy.
Water as a name for perfume is diabolical.
We're the witches. We're the ones who are supposed to have all the dark and spooky shit. Are you kidding me? However, when we graduated high school is not where Cool Water's story ends. I mean, you graduated high school like in the late 2000s. I was smack dab in the middle. But the brand has been riding the surge of nostalgia for the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, as well as getting involved in collaborations, particularly those that speak to the nostalgia. In 2021, they collaborated with Capcom for a release of Cool Water Street Fighter Edition, okay, which they called the Champion Edition. And it was to collab with Street Fighter V. Why are we making face? I thought it was the coolest shit. You're apparently not sold on Street Fighter and Davidoff Cool Water collaborating.
I'm just confused. What does it smell like? Sweat and blood?
No, it's the same. It's just Cool Water. They're just calling it Champion Edition.
Hey then.
So 2 of the characters, Ryu and Chun-Li, okay, are specifically part of the marketing. One is for the Cool Water for Women, one's for the regular Cool Water. From what I've seen from the packaging and all the press releases on it, it's the same scent in the same bottles. It just has one logo of Street Fighter V on it. That's it. One on the bottle and one on the outside box packaging.
Hey, what?
The effort was minimal.
You're paying for the branding.
Yep. You're paying for the branding. You're also paying for the collab, right? Especially if people are into this like 80s, 90s, 2000s nostalgia. They want the scent to go with the video game experience.
There was no update to the formula for the collaboration?
Nope.
So I hate that. I really don't like that.
I mean, they already have over 30 different versions of Cool Water. Why do you need to make a completely different one?
I mean, that's what a collaboration is, not just slapping branding on it and saying, "Oh, we're doing collaboration."
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but most bigger companies don't have the same vision we do. That's why we don't have a lot of money, but we still have our morals. Cool Water remains a beloved favorite. Cody reports that a bottle is sold every 2 seconds worldwide, which I feel like cannot be true.
What?
And because Chanel number 5 was like every 30 seconds or every 40 seconds, something like that.
Chanel's way more popular than Cool Water.
Yeah, but it's expensive as fuck. So not everybody can afford that, right? Whereas Cool Water, you could pick up when you're picking up your prescriptions at CVS, right?
Right.
So like, is that because there's more people obviously who could buy Cool Water or that's in their price range rather than say Chanel number 5? So is that part of it? But yeah, Cody does report that a bottle is sold every 2 seconds worldwide.
That's kind of crazy.
Damn, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I got for Cool Water.
Wow. Good old Vetiver.
Good old Vetiver. It was a wild ride. I was doing this research and I was like, wait, hold up. So it's a tobacco company?
Yeah,
it's a tobacco company.
A tobacco company. We have a perfumer that made a perfume without having his nose. What? That's cool. Cool episode.
Sillage and Sorcery is produced by Melissa Sifjardóttir and B. Sampson. It was researched and written by B. Sampson and Melissa Sifjardóttir. Our logo was designed by B. Sampson. It was edited by Melissa Sifjardóttir. If you would like to get merch, like we have a sweet blanket, we have a bunch of fun stuff. You can find that on our website at www.sillageandsorcery.com. You can also find alternative links to find us. If you want to see our gorgeous faces on YouTube, or if you want to hear us while you're driving in the car for 6 hours, like I'm doing this weekend to go to Maryland, you could do that as well on our website. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, review, all the fun stuff so more cool people like yourself can find us. And I will see you in the next one. Love you. Bye. I mean, I have that with Bud Light Lime. Bud Light Lime tastes like soap, which is why I don't drink
What?
it. We not. I mean, it's a pretty niche thing to talk about, but yeah, I do not drink Bud Light Lime because anytime I smell it, if I drink it, it just tastes and smells like I'm drinking soap. So I just don't.